day to everyone. I'm pleased to share with you my presentation on the function of evaluation for specific purposes, or we call that ESP. And for today, we will look at why evaluation is important in ESP and how it works in different ways it is applied to both learners and courses. And to introduce this topic, first, an ESP evaluation performs two main key functions. First is we have the assessment and the feedback. So when we say assessment, these help us to measure the performance of students, while feedback provides useful information that helps teacher and learners know what to improve. So, in accordance with Hutchinson and Waters, there are actually two major levels of evaluation. First is we have the level assessments and the course evaluation. When we say learner assessment, this focuses on the student's abilities, and when we say course evaluation, this focuses on how well the course meets its goals. So these both two levels of evaluation, they are important because they help us to decide what content and what method to use for future lessons. So let us first start with the learner assessment. So this type of evaluation looks on how the students are performing at different points in the course. This usually at the beginning or at the end of the course. So in ESP, we don't just test the grammar or the vocabulary. We are more concerned with the communicative competence, which means the student's ability to complete the real-world language task and specific situation. So this kind of assessment helps the sponsors, teachers, and the learners make decisions about the progress, needs, and the goals. So there are actually three main types of the learners assessment in ESP. We have the placement test, the achievement test, and also the proficiency test. So now let's proceed with the first test. We have the placement test. Placement tests are given at the beginning of a course. Yung pinaka-main goal niya is to find out what the learner already knows so that we can place them in the right class or group. These tests are usually designed for a particular institution or programs. That means a placement test that worked well in one school may not work in another. So if the test is well designed, it can be placed learner accurately and also help assess their needs. So, a placement test is not only for grouping students but also a useful needs for analysis tools. So let's now proceed to achievement test. So when we say achievement tests are closely linked to the course objectives, meaning they are usually given at the end of the course to measure how much learners have achieved. Sometimes we ask, what can learner do now that they could not do before? So for example, they may now be able to write better essay introduction and make formal requests or pronounce sounds correctly. According to Hughes, there are actually two types of achievement tests. We have the final achievement test, such as yung mga national exams like yung mga WAEC or GCE. Yung exam na to is basically based on everything you learn from the books and lesson. And yung next naman na types is we have the progress achievement test. So when we say progress achievement test, we want to measure the progress students are making. It is given during the course to see how far their language ability has developed. You know, parang it enables the teacher to assess himself to see how far he is achieving his objectives. Yung para si teacher, alam niya kung ano yung what to reteach or retaught and what to do next. It makes for the progression towards the final achievement task based on the course objectives. So basically, achievement tests are given during the course to measure the student's development. So if the teaching and the plan or syllabus match the goal of the course, then the progress test will make sense and match the student's learning, pero if naman yung progress test doesn't match kung ano yung tinuro, then something is wrong, and it's not the test fault, but it might be the syllables that need to be fixed. So now, let's now move on with proficiency test. So, proficiency test, minimeasure niya yung learner's overall ability in English regardless of the training they have had. According to Hughes, he described that proficiency as having sufficient command of a language for a particular purpose. Meaning, yung focus is not on what the student was taught, but actually on what they can actually do with the language. So, for example, Nigerian University now give aptitude tests to students in art and social science programs. So, this test check if their English is good enough to succeed in English academic setting. According to Lindsay and Knight, na-mention nila a special type called external proficiency examination. Itong mga exam na to, these include international tests like TOEFL, meaning Test of English as a Foreign Language, and IELTS, International English Language Testing System, and Cambridge ESOL. So these exams are often used for university admission or job placement, and they can be taken by learners from different countries and school. Okay, let's now move on to the second main type of evaluation, which is we have the course evaluation. So, kapag sinabi natin course evaluation, these help us to assess whether the course design and its feature are meeting the needs of the learner. According to Hutchinson and Waters, say that everyone is involved in the learning process. Even the teachers, student, and even the sponsors should take part in evaluating the course. In course evaluation, tinitignan natin yung the quality of the teaching materials, how classroom activities are delivered, how students are supported outside the class, the teaching method used, and the type of assessment applied. Pero, however, we cannot evaluate everything at once, of course. So, as Dudley Evans and St. John advise, we need to set priorities and plan when and how we collect the data. That way, the evaluation become manageable and more effective. Okay, so when planning an evaluation, we should ask several questions. First is, what should we evaluate? This is really depend on what matters most to the teacher, student, and also the sponsors at a given time. And number 2 question is, how can we evaluate it? There are many tools. First is we have tests, questionnaires, interviews, or even a simple comments. So, who should evaluate? The teacher, the learners, the sponsors? It really depends on who designed the course and why. When and how often should evaluation happen? It should not be frequent because it can be time-consuming and even frustrating, but it should happen regularly enough to guide improvements. So, in conclusion, evaluation in ESP is an ongoing process which help us to understand how much students have learned and how effective the course has been. Meaning, first, learner assessment includes placement, achievement, and proficiency test. In conclusion, evaluation in ESP is an ongoing process. This helps us to understand how much students have learned and how effective the course has been. Learner assessment includes placement, achievement, and proficiency tests, all of which serve different purposes. Course evaluation, on the other hand, help us to make sure that the course is meeting the needs of both learners and the sponsors. With a regular and well-planned evaluation, we can improve both teaching and learning. It allows to make informed decision that lead to better outcome in ESP. And I think that would be all to my part. Thank you.